Solo Leveling by Chu Gong. Chapter 6 Part 1 The Lizards. The squad made its way to where the gate had appeared. It was an abandoned construction site for an apartment building.
They say the economy isn't doing so well.
Dong-suk clicked his tongue in disapproval. Unfinished apartment buildings stood scattered in the area like huge tombstones. If there was a cemetery for giants, it would have looked like this.
Did you know?
Jinho leaned in closer to Jin-woo and whispered to him.
The president of the company embezzled 900 billion won and escaped abroad 2 months ago, leaving all the employees and investors in a tough spot.
No matter how many hints Jin-woo had given him, Jinho wouldn't leave him alone. It seemed like Jinho wasn't able to quite fit in with the 8 others, since they were all original members of the squad.
Dude, you always this quiet?
He'd started calling Jin-woo dude at some point. Jin-woo was growing weary of ignoring him.
Can't you take a hint? Hee hee, I'm not very used to taking hints from other people.
Was this guy an optimist, or was he just clueless? Jin-woo raised an eyebrow at Jinho's bright smile. But I really... Jin-woo tended to get more sensitive whenever he approached a gate. It wasn't something he could control. For other hunters, raids were all about money, but for Jin-woo, it was about survival. It dredged up a ton of painful memories, so he couldn't help but get twitchy.
Here we are.
Dong-suk stopped. Wow. The hunters looked impressed.
Are you sure this is a C-rank gate, bro? Seems a bit big. You really think the association would bullshit us? They said the investigators checked it out twice.
The portal floating in midair was reminiscent of a black hole. This was what they called a gate. A gate's rank was determined by a measure of the magic wavelengths emanating from within. The Hunters Association notified people of the rank after they evaluated the level. After that, strike squads or guilds would request permission to raid it. A or B rank gates were mostly taken by large guilds because they were too dangerous for freelance strike squads. Freelancers usually dealt with low rank gates, with C rank being the highest they could safely tackle. Dong-suk stepped in front of the gate and looked back.
All right, everyone, I'll head in first. Please stick close.
One by one, the other hunters followed as the tank led the way. Just in case, Ji-woo started to do some light stretching. Next to him, Jinho produced his weapons. His sword and shield seemed to sparkle. They were obviously very expensive, not the sort of thing a newbie could easily purchase on his own. He said he's not used to taking hints from others, so maybe his family's rich? He hadn't struck Jin-woo as that type. Jinho sensed Jin-woo's stares and popped out his chest.
You're an E rank, right, dude? I'll make sure to protect you, so please just stick with me.
Jin-woo blinked. Who'd protect whom?
Well, thanks, I guess. We should get going, too.
Putting aside Jin-woo's doubts, the two of them safely passed through the gate. It was quiet inside the dungeon. It was quiet and dark. Dong-suk gave his first order.
Gyuwon, light up. Yes.
Gyuwon-jo, a mage hunter, conjured a sphere of light. The place flooded with radiance. Dong-suk lowered his shield and cocked his head.
What? Where are all the beasts? Yeah, and why were the lights off?
Typically, glow stones lodged in the walls of the dungeon lit the way. This time, there were no such stones to be seen anywhere. Jinho whispered in Jinwoo's ear.
Are there really dungeons without any magic beasts? Shoo!
Jinwoo pressed a finger to his lips. His ear twitched. He could hear countless footsteps in the distance. Jinwoo spoke.
There are magic beasts. They just aren't here yet.
Jinho swallowed nervously. SKRRT, SKRRT, SKRRT. Soon, the others were able to hear what Jin-woo was hearing. Dong-suk realized just how serious the situation was. A dungeon without glowstones.
What moves as a group lives in the dark and heads toward the light.
Oh no! Dong-suk's and his colleagues' faces turned grim.
Bugs? They're bugs? Why does it have to be fucking bugs?
Dong-suk barked.
Everyone, positions. Incoming. Forward.
A bunch of creatures were rushing straight for them.
This isn't an ant colony, is it? Don't say that kind of shit.
Among magic beasts, insect types were especially a pain in the neck. They came in swarms, and every single one of them was powerful and hard to kill. Ants were the worst of them all. Many a hunter had lost their lives by unwittingly stumbling into an ant colony. SKRRT, SKRRT, SKRRT. The sound of the bug's legs scraping against the ground made their skin crawl. That meant they were close. Dong-suk raised his shield up to his chin. They still couldn't see any insects, though. The squad members were causing a commotion behind him.
What's going on? I don't see anything, but they sound close. Dong-suk, do you see anything?
Jinwoo yelled.
Up.
What? Dong-suk instinctively looked up. SKRRT, SKRRT, SKRRT. Huge bugs were coming at them from above. Seconds later, and those bastards would have dropped right on top of them. With beasts that attacked as a group like insect types often did, once the hunter's formation broke, that'd be it. If we hadn't spotted them when we did. Dong-suk felt a chill run down his spine. There were different kinds of insects, but fortunately, none of these was an ant. He called out,
Shoot! Shoot them so they drop! Once they're down, I'll go aggro.
Arrows and magic attacks flew at the insects. FWSSHHHH, Fwit. Boom. Skr-cree. Skr-cree. Once the hunters knocked some of the bugs to the ground, the rest took to the ground themselves, ready to fight. Tanks were important at this point in the battle. Dong-suk got the magic beasts to focus on him by using his aggravation skills. The beasts all turned to him at the same time, as if they'd planned a synchronized move.
Over here, bugs!
Skr-cree. Tens of insects all charged at Dong-suk. Crash. CRNN crash. KRSH. His shield blocked all of the insects' attacks. Their powerful jaws and claws couldn't break through the shield. Dong-suk the tank kept the horde back with his steady stance.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
He was priming for just the right moment. He held steady, waiting for the ideal time for a counterattack even as the insects relentlessly assaulted him. He was looking for an opening when the bugs were in a position that would allow aggro to continue working on them even as the damage dealers launched their attacks. This is it. This was the start of the real battle. This was the reason people called them hunters. Dong-suk yelled out a single word.
Go!
With that one command, the squad unleashed all their firepower on the bugs. Skr-cree. Scrawl. Magic beasts were screeching everywhere. Jinwoo watched the battle from the back of the party. That had been the agreement. He imagined how he would handle the situation while watching the others fight. This is frustrating. He had to stop himself several times from joining them. He could see the beast's weak points. He could also see the hunters making frequent mistakes and missing those weak points. No wonder Jinwoo was frustrated being forced to stay back and watch. Because of their group chemistry, though, Dong-suk's squad wasn't sustaining much damage. Dong-suk's laid-back attitude before the battle hadn't been all bluster.
Jin-suk, 11 o'clock. Bro, they're coming from the right, too. June Sukmin Yuan. Take the right. Got it. Chuljin, your wrist is swollen. Fall back for now. This is nothing, bro. Do you think we're done after this? We don't know how long this'll go on, so take it easy. Pace yourself. All right.
It might have been because they'd been a squad for a long while, but the communication among them was excellent. Good communication makes for good teamwork. They were completely different from the disorderly association hunters. And that one isn't so bad either. Jinwoo's gaze shifted to Jinho. When a magic beast bit off a part of his shield, Jinho immediately kicked both it and the beast away and swung his sword. The expensive blade beheaded the magic beast with a dull clang. He was doing well for a D-rank newbie. He's using good weapons to make up for his lack of skills and experience. There was a reason hunters went out of their way to obtain expensive weapons. Jinho made eye contact with Jinwoo and gave him a thumbs up. He looked almost puppy-like, so Jinwoo felt he had no choice but to return the thumbs up. Satisfied, Jinho turned back around. Scree! The fierce battle was drawing to a close. Once the hunters had mostly cleared the field, Dong-suk ordered,
"Grab all the essence stones. We'll divide them by 9. Will do. This is my favorite part. Same."
After watching his exhilarated squad members, Dong-suk walked over to Jinwoo.
"Oh boy, we're safe because of you. Excuse me? You were the first one to see the bugs coming from above, weren't you? How'd you know they were there?" "I had a hunch,"
Jinwoo said vaguely. He couldn't exactly say it was due to his high perception stat.
"Oh, really? A hunch? We got lucky, then. I don't know what would have happened if we hadn't seen them in time. Phew."
Dong-suk put his hand on his chest and exhaled. Just then, one of the hunters who was searching the bugs waved at Dong-suk.
"You need to see this."
The squad had gathered together. Dong-suk headed over to them.
"What? These look weird."
The other hunters parted to let Dong-suk get by. He squatted down and studied their surroundings. He didn't see anything strange. There were just dead bugs scattered everywhere. He raised an eyebrow.
"What do you mean by weird?"
One of the hunters pointed at the leg of a nearby bug.
"That wound doesn't look like it's from us."
Dong-suk frowned. After inspecting it closely, he said,
"It looks like something bit it." "Right. That's not the only one. Look over there, and that other one too."
"That one's completely missing a wing. These things were already beaten up before they fought us, huh?"
Dong-suk's face hardened. That's why the battle hadn't been particularly challenging despite the sheer number of them.
"What did these things fight before us?"
At that moment, Jinwoo felt like Dong-suk and some of his crew were staring in his direction. When Jinwoo glanced over at them, they all turned away. Jinwoo's suspicions were confirmed. I knew it. What he'd thought at the beginning had been right. The squad really had good chemistry because they'd been working together for a long time. Plus, no members had ever been killed in action. But how was that possible without a healer? Everyone, even great hunters, made mistakes because they were only human. Even this squad's formation had almost broken moments ago. Jinwoo had a rough idea what was going on. He couldn't help giving a small smile. Maybe I can use these guys. If they did what Jinwoo expected, it might be possible. Dong-suk stood up with a smile on his face.
"Okay, we'll go deeper. If the rest of the dungeon is like this, we should be able to clear it soon."
He'd spoken loudly on purpose. It likely wasn't for his regular squad, since they were already clustered around him. Meanwhile, Jinho approached Jinwoo with a big grin on his face.
"Dude, did you see me? You saw me, right? I destroyed those beasts with a..."
He lightly slashed the air.
Jinwoo asked, "Aren't that sword and shield expensive?" Oh, my father wanted me to have something special for my first raid. Then you should be careful too.
Jinwoo patted Jinho on the shoulder before following the other hunters, who were moving deeper inside the dungeon.
What's that supposed to mean?
Jinho scratched his head, bewildered, but chased after everyone. The cave stretched on, but they didn't see any magic beasts. This dungeon had been a straight path so far, so they couldn't have missed anything.
Is that all? Whatever we saw at the entrance? Nah, no way. This is all very strange. Still, there should be a boss, right? If there wasn't, the gate wouldn't be open.
The hunters quarreled over why the spacious dungeon was so empty.
Wait.
Dong-suk stopped walking. There were some little collisions because he'd stopped so suddenly. One hunter bumped his nose into the back of another's head and got all whiny.
Bro! What the heck? Yuan, give me some light.
Yuan moved the sphere of light that was floating above the middle of the group to where Dong-suk was pointing.
Oh my god. Are those all?
The hunters gasped quietly. Insect wings, legs, bodies, and even heads. The remains of bugs were strewn everywhere. The number of carcasses increased the deeper they went. At the end of the corridor was a huge chamber.
It's the boss's lair,
someone muttered. Dong-suk nodded in agreement.
Everyone, ready your weapons.
The hunters immediately armed themselves. Everyone looked tense. They tiptoed their way to the entrance of the room. Dong-suk led the way, and they all cautiously entered the boss's lair. But the silence didn't last long.
Jackpot.
The hunter with a red nose exclaimed. He was the one who'd bumped into someone's back earlier. It was normally taboo to yell like that in a dungeon. The noise could attract the attention of a beast that could have otherwise been avoided. But no one told him off.
Whoa. How much do you think that's worth? This is sick.
Everyone was too preoccupied with excitement.
Hold on.
As Gyuwon moved the ball of light high in the air, more of the chamber was revealed.
Those are mana stones. This entire wall is covered in mana stones.
The hunter's eyes twinkled brighter than the stones were sparkling in the light. Mana stones were one of the treasures that could be found in dungeons. They had weaker magic than the essence stones harvested from magic beasts, but were usually found in large clumps, so hunters could make a lot of money from them. This time, they'd found an incredible trove. The stones covered an entire section of the rounded wall of the cave.
At a rough calculation,
a hunter who was good at math counted quickly on his fingers.
If we harvest all of them, it should come out to more than 100 million won. If we divide it by 9, each of us will get over 10 million won.
Whoa! Grins spread across all the hunters' faces. At the back of the group, Jinho elbowed Jinwoo in the side after hearing that.
Dude, give me your contract. What for? Trust me and give it here. I know the law like the back of my hand.
Jinwoo shrugged and handed his contract to Jinho. Jinho took it and went over to Dong-suk.
Excuse me, sir. I have a question for you.
All their gazes swiveled to Jinho. He showed them the contract.
Sir, this is Jinwoo's contract. As you can see, there is no mention of essence stones other than the ones that come from hunting.
Everyone realized what Jinho was saying. It was customary to equally divide treasure or rare items found in a dungeon among all party members. This was different from battling magic beasts, because with magic beasts, they could harvest essence stones from only the ones they defeated themselves. That meant these mana stones had to be divided by 10, not 9. The other hunter's eyes narrowed, but Dong-suk walked in front of the group with a smile on his face.
Of course we'll divvy these up equally. We know that very well. We just have something to take care of first.
He pointed at something up ahead. Jinho jumped in surprise. He thought Dong-suk was pointing at him. He flinched but then turned around. There, curled in a corner of the room, was a spider as big as a house. Oh! Upon seeing the huge beast, Jinho stumbled back with his hand over his mouth. The sleeping spider didn't move a single muscle. There were mountains of insect carcasses around the beast. The half-eaten insect exoskeletons covered in saliva sort of looked like food waste that had spilled out of an overturned trash bin. That has to be the boss. Did that thing eat the other bugs in the dungeon? It really gorged itself, didn't it? The hunters muttered to one another as they took in the spider. Dong-suk gathered the squad around him. Jin-woo and Jinho also huddled up. As you all well know, the gate closes when the boss is killed. So let's grab the mana stones from the wall before we take on the spider. Everyone nodded in agreement. Dong-suk turned to a bald hunter. Chuljin, did you bring the tools? Chuljin Lee shook his head. No. Who knew we would find mana stones in a C-rank dungeon? I left all the mining tools in the car. Dude, didn't I tell you to be prepared for any situation? Sorry. I'm really sorry. Chuljin smiled sheepishly and bowed in. Apology to Dong-suk, everyone in the squad, and even Jin-woo. Dong-suk scratched his head. Oh boy, this is annoying. Can you two please stay here? We'll be back with the tools. When they tried to leave, Jinho stopped them with a question, puzzled. You want just Jin-woo and me to stay in the boss's lair? Dong-suk smiled reassuringly. You'll be fine. That thing isn't waking up even though we're talking so loudly, right? I have something I need to tell my squad anyway, and we're thinking of taking a quick smoke break, since we can. We'll be right back. Inside his head, Jin-woo scoffed at Dong-suk's lengthy explanation. They're showing their true colors now. But really, all of them trying to leave at once? How dumb do they think we are? They were probably looking down on them for being a lower rank. Dong-suk acted exactly as Jin-woo had expected, though the situation was a little different from what he'd imagined. This was Jinwoo's 4th year working as a hunter, and over time, he'd met many different hunters. Among them had been a hunter named Mr. O. After he quit freelancing, he had started helping the association with odd jobs to pass the time. Beware the lizards. That was something Mr. O frequently said. When participating in a raid, there would often be times when hunters ran into danger. It didn't happen every raid, but some unscrupulous hunters would sometimes sacrifice others in such a situation, even though they'd fought together as colleagues up until that point. This could be anywhere from ditching people who weren't part of the original squad, or even hunters who were of a lower rank. This was done to buy themselves time to escape. It was like a lizard cutting off its own tail when running away. Cutting off its own tail. Mr. O referred to such hunters as lizards, and this act as cutting off its own tail. According to the rules, the minimum number of party members needed in order to attack a C-rank gate was 10. However, Dong-suk's squad had consisted of only 8 regular members. You know how hard it is to have a healer in a strike squad. This is just how we roll. As Dong-suk himself had said, they'd raided many C-rank gates in the past. No wonder they'd never needed to bring in 2 more permanent members. What they wanted was a tail they could cut off every time. That was why they'd accepted any hunter, whether they were an E rank or a newbie. Currently, Dong-suk was planning to ditch Jin-woo and Jinho, though for a different reason than usual. This is good for me. Jin-woo had figured out what Dong-suk was up to, but he kept quiet. This was actually what he wanted. It was the first day on the job for Jinho, though, and unlike Jin-woo, he wasn't particularly confident that he could protect himself.
he anxiously said.
No, I mean, it'd be better if everyone stuck together.
Jinwoo noticed one of the hunters at the back of the group reaching toward his sword in its sheath. Jinwoo put his hand on Jinho's shoulder.
Understood. We'll keep an eye on the spider.
The hunter took his hand off his sword.
Jinwoo.
Jinho looked like he was at a loss, but Jinwoo shook his head at him without saying a word. Even though Jinho was a noisy kid, Jinwoo couldn't let him die like this. He'd even tried to include Jinwoo in the divvying up of the mana stones, though that meant he himself would get a smaller share. Dong-suk smiled at the both of them.
We parked the car right out front, so it won't take too long.
The 8 members of Dong-suk's squad left the boss's lair in a hurry. The sound of their footsteps receded quickly. Jinho rounded on Jinwoo.
Dude, why'd you say that? What if the beast wakes up? Then what?
He seemed petrified of the spider. He really sucks at reading between the lines. Jinwoo tooted his head. Explaining every little thing would be a pain, too. Instead of responding, he started stretching. Dong-suk turned around and looked in the direction of the boss's lair. The hunters who were following him also stopped in their tracks. They were quite far from the chamber now. The other 2 wouldn't be able to hear them from this distance. Dong-suk wiped the smile from his face and addressed Gyuwon, gesturing with his chin at the path to the lair.
Gyuwon, block the entrance. Should I blow it up?
Yeah, but take it easy.
We have to go back inside later.
Chuljin spoke up.
Why make things so complicated? Why not just kill those 2 already?
Dong-suk glowered at Chuljin. He didn't have to fake a smile for their guests any longer. That, at least, was convenient for him.
I am sorry.
Chuljin cast his eyes down in fear. Dong-suk scared.
What if we woke up the spider? When were you planning to mine and haul away those mana stones? I'm sorry.
Gyuwon interrupted.
Speaking of the spider, it could wake while we dig up the mana stones, no? How do we avoid that?
The spider had filled its stomach with hard-to-kill insect-type magic beasts. They could sustain a lot of damage if the spider attacked them while they were preoccupied.
That's why.
Dong-suk smirked.
I want to feed those 2 to the spider. Aw.
Gyuwon nodded, finally understanding Dong-suk's master plan. They didn't know when the spider was going to wake up. It could be 10 hours, 1 hour, or 1 minute from now. So the plan was to rouse and feed the spider in advance. The shock wave from a collapsed entrance would wake even the most lethargic beast. Dong-suk continued.
We can excavate the stones once the stuffed spider goes back to sleep.
They had a 5-day work permit from the association, and they still had 4.5 days left. They could afford to wait a while, and even if the spider didn't go back to sleep in time, they could still kill it and harvest as many mana stones as possible before the gate closed. It wouldn't be possible to dig them all up in an hour, but they wouldn't have to share them with Jinwoo and Jinho, so it wouldn't be much of a loss. Wouldn't that be better than mining the mana stones in a constant state of fear? After all, safety first. Of course, that's the worst-case scenario. If everything went well, they would dig up all the mana stones, kill the spider, and not have to share a single one with the other 2. Jinho's expensive weapons would be a bonus. His sword and shield cost at least a couple $100,000. They had nothing to lose. Dong-suk smirked.
Block the entrance, and we'll grab a smoke. You got it.
Gyuwon responded quickly, summoning a blinding light to the tips of his fingers.